Anyway, next up, we have two other fantastic speakers. We're going to take it a different direction here. We got Javier Hasse, General Manager of Benzinga's Cannabis editorial team. He's going to introduce our next speaker.
No. Apologies, I'm running all around, but we have an amazing conversation with Kurt Davies. He is Director of Business Development at Fluence. It's a great company. I've been following it for years. And you got great things coming up.
You know the most fun right now is it's 420, Fontainebleau, 1,500 of my friends. So, yeah.
Who would have told we'd be here, right?
It could
that
be
we'd
worse.
be celebrating 420 and suits and ties and talking business.
Yeah.
So, Kurt, tell us a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about Fluence.
Yeah, having been through 3 not so pretty startups in 3 other industries, Fluence really is a little bit of a Cinderella story. So it started garage shop, 2 guys that left a lighting company. We're a lighting manufacturer, the leading LED lighting manufacturer for medium to large scale cannabis operators. And they started in a 1,000 square foot facility with 1 employee. They had a non-compete, so in horticulture, they chose to, one of the founders liked fish, aquarium. So they made specialty spectrum fish lights basically for a year, $300,000 in revenue, profitable, sunk their own money into it, and then non-compete went off and just started chunking away at the market 10 years ago with some of the advanced LED, back when LED didn't have a very good name. So it does now, but 10 years ago, it wasn't very good. It was efficient, but it didn't grow very, very good plants. So they started, ramped with a few customers, just ramped, revenues double. Great story, profitable from day one, on up through, several tens of millions of dollars, and then decided to go fishing, and they sold off 3 years ago to a German multinational company, so for $100 million. So
massive one,
too,
right?
It's a real fun. It's a fun place. The market allows us to win. We have great technology, and I was watching Fluence. My background's in semiconductors and healthcare imaging and equipment finance, most recently. And I found Fluence when I started in a cannabis equipment finance division for my private equity lender, when there really wasn't much in the space. And still in equipment finance, Len Tenenbaum was up here just a few minutes ago, and mostly in real estate finance, but in equipment, it's a strange game. So I started to ramp a cannabis equipment finance arm in 2015. A guy named Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump came in, and
really,
and
is there a story there?
And my CEO got really scared of shutting the whole thing down. I said the horse is out of the barn, and he goes, yeah, but the horse can still be whipped. And so we pulled out of cannabis. I did a few things and got to know Fluence during that time. Financed a couple of their customers, financed $100,000 for Columbia Care up in New York, and some other things, and joined them 5 years ago, and it's been a fun ride.
It's crazy to think, right? The evolution of Fluence to becoming a leader in LED lighting, as you said, from fish lighting, which kind of makes sense because it's specialty lighting. But I remember my grower friends 10 years ago, even 8 years ago, saying like, LED doesn't work as good as sodium lights. They don't produce great yields. Like, how does that change, and how does that evolve, and how does this Fluence become this leader that really delivers that kind of yield that the experienced grower is looking for, and that now my friends are going like, this is the good stuff?
Yeah, it took a while because LEDs in your house, LEDs in the office are always more energy efficient. They're efficient lights. But until they get the power, cannabis is a very light hungry plant. Almost all cultivars can grow in direct sunlight in Phoenix, and do well. So the more light, the plants grow better, more yield, and without sacrificing. I heard Boris Jordan talking about terpenes this morning and how important the cannabinoids and the terpenes are just for the user experience, not just THC. LEDs had to evolve and are still ramping in the technology. So the interesting thing is, just a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when we introduced some of the newest technology then, that gave the same horsepower as HPS but used less energy. Now, really the salient point is both the energy savings, and use a little bit of that energy savings and you pour it into more light. And my elevator pitch with anyone in the room, any CFO, is, Mr. CFO, I can give you the same amount of light,
Yep.
and I can save you electricity, and your payback's going to be like 3 years. Or I can take some of that, grow bigger, better plants faster sometimes, and the payback 6 months. Which one do you want? So, they say, well, you're crazy. I'll take the 6 months, but can you prove it? And then we demonstrate it usually in their facility, heads up. And when we do that well in a controlled environment, controlled study, they choose us about 80%.
You just present this, hypothetical real situation where you talk to a CFO. Let me play a CFO. Like, how significant are the energy savings? Because that must also, weigh on the decision. It's like, okay, like suddenly my electricity bill is down now that gas prices are up and energy prices are going up as well. Like, that's important as well. How significant is it?
It is, and I'm going to go back. I'm one of the older ones in the room, but in the late 70s, as a kid, I remember watching my parents wait in gas lines, and you had the license plate. You could only go every, even on one day, out on the next day. And I don't know that we're going to get there again, but you see what's happening here recently, and electricity is just going to get to be more of a valuable commodity. It's going to get more expensive instead of less. And LED, ours or anyone else's, light in comparison uses about 40% less electricity. So that's a big deal. 40% less electricity. You take a little bit of that back, you can still get 25 or 30% savings, grow better crop, faster, more yield, and it's really a nice story that you said didn't really exist 10 years ago, and it didn't. It got ahead of itself. Some growers, even here in the room, will say, well, I still use HPS lights because I trust them, I know how to use them, they work. And I say, my dad drove an Olds 98 with a big V8 engine for years. It still gets to the store. It burns a ton of gas. You have to change the spark plugs. You have to change the bulbs in HPS and put them in the trash dump. And so the LED is really
you need to be careful not to overheat it.
Overheating you have to keep them 3 feet off because it'll overheat the crop and burn the tips, and LED doesn't do that. So in an industry that's really not very green, and we're part of the problem is you have to put in an indoor facility, a lot of HVAC, and then a lot of electricity for lights. We're helping that, the whole environmental.
Now we're talking about LED in general, right? LED, the benefits of LED. Why would I go to Fluence? Like, what makes Fluence LED different from any other, I don't know, there's LED everywhere. Like, you can get it for a few bucks.
There is. And I remember 2016 Rio MJ Biz. Remember that at the Pink and Purple Hotel? And I counted the booths there. We had about 8 or 10 competitors.
Oh, yeah.
Today we have about 70. Most of it many are knockoffs of our designs, typically from China, but not always. We have a few patents. We have some IP. We don't have enough lawyers to go chase it all. So it's flattering in a way, but so there's a lot of different type of LED technology that you can buy today. We're never the cheapest. We're not always the most expensive. But what we've done is created great technology as a platform and innovation through the last 10 years. And then at some point, I talked about startups. We're not a startup anymore. So the difference between the same as an operator in a 5,000 square foot facility or home grow versus a 50,000 square foot facility, those are two very different things. This is a manufacturing facility. This is a work of art. You can talk to the plants. And so the same way with us, we have to now produce 200,000 to 300,000 lights out of our factory. That's not a startup anymore. So the organization the discipline, the SOPs, et cetera, to be able to do that reliably, to support the customers in the field. We're not perfect. We have problems. We fix the problems when we have them. We ship out new lights. And then the other really interesting thing about Fluence early on is we started building an ecosystem of friends in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I met one this morning from years ago. I met a new friend, even in the back of the main room, who recognized our name. She came up to me. So we built an ecosystem of people, of trusted partners, sort of best in breed. And then we added to our organization, we have a staff of 6 or 7 growers. Not everybody needs our help, but we bring that to the table. We have 4 PhDs with plant science PhDs on board. We have a research lab in Austin where we manufacture. We have me, I run Fluence Capital, bringing capital to the table just for equipment, which is an interesting diversion than a difference from a REIT bringing capital for real estate. A very interesting, piece of the technology. We're going to start up a lighting as a service product, and all those things are hard to build. They're hard to build as an operator here. They're hard to build as a manufacturer, and I think we've done it pretty well.
Several of my friends who use your products also told me about the services and how you hold their hand through the process, right? Can you walk me through that? I'm curious.
So a woman I met this morning with one of the 50 new licenses in New Jersey, she knows one of our growers. We haven't talked in length, but that's the kind of startup that we can help, and she's going to hire an expert grower. She might not need our help, but we're in 100 to 200 facilities a year, our people are, and so we bring that institutional knowledge, mostly of how not to do things. I'm not a grower, but I know the right 4 questions to ask about your environment, about your SOPs. Genetics are big. Boris Jordan talked about his own genetics that he's ramping, that's huge. But we can help because we see a lot, and we can help mitigate risk while someone ramps a facility or when someone doubles their facility. And we bring our ecosystem, our capital to the table, and our growers, project managers. We work with some of the largest, about half of the largest 25 MSOs who have multiple states, multiple facilities. They have a hard time managing their organization.
Oh, yeah.
So we bring people to the different places with project management, and we help them succeed. From day one, our founders didn't want to just provide great technology. We really, it's a little bit trite, but we really want to help our customers achieve financial success and improve their financials. That's what it's all about. If we can't help do that, then we shouldn't be here.
That is very true. Now, where you say, I know which questions to ask. What are some of the biggest pitfalls that you see? Of course, without spilling the secret sauce, but what are some of the biggest pitfalls and problems that you see in some of these operators that you're advising?
The biggest one, so lights are really, really important, but the most important in an indoor facility or a high bay, state-of-the-art greenhouse, we don't really work with outdoor growers. They have free sun. They get 1 or 2 crops a year versus 5 or 6. But the main thing we see is dehumidification. So there's not a lot of architects, there's not a lot of MEPs, HVAC engineers that have worked with really wet environments. You have to water the plants transpire, you have to get that out of the room or else you have powdery mildew, root problems, is the design of HVAC and the dehumidification. What happens when you turn your lights off at night? Do you have this huge spike? And most people have a hard time with that, with their HVAC design. That is really the engine, and everything else revolves around that. But bringing, again, without violating any of our customers' IP, we can help bring in SOPs. We can help scout and look for problems. We can find out why someone's not yielding maybe the way they should. And there's a lot of really, really small pieces for the grower that goes into that. The grower in a cultivation facility, the grower is so key. So getting a good grower that can grow at scale and run a manufacturing operation, not easily had.
Oh, not at all. I've heard it so many times. Like people just go out their places and go like, oh yeah, I'm gonna become a professional industrial grower. And it's like, yeah, babe, it's not the same thing. Definitely not the same thing. Cooking a meal at your house for you and your wife than being a chef at a restaurant.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, I'm an international guy, right? You're talking a lot about the U.S. How does your international footprint look like?
So we started in U.S. cannabis 10 years ago, got to be really good, are really good at it. We ramped a Europe team 2.5 years ago with 10 people in EMEA out of Germany and Holland, and they're ramping that market. It's going slower than the U.S. It's following the U.S., probably 4 or 5 years behind, I think. A lot of red tape in Europe, but we have boots on the ground for cannabis. The other thing we do is we're ramping in commercial ag, so tomatoes, peppers, that sort of thing. Same type of lighting strategy, mostly in greenhouses. And then another sort of sister industry is sort of indoor lettuce, tall 10-level microgreen lettuce farms. That's a thing. Indoor ag is farm to table. Our urban ag is becoming a thing, and we're present in Europe, in Australia for the cannabis market that's ramping. We have a business development manager there with an ecosystem. We have an installation in Thailand for early cannabis
Cool.
for the medical program there, and that's gonna take a while in the Pacific Rim, but we're ready to move there. We have boots in Canada. That's a tough market, as you know. But there's a few.
But they need lights. Like they really need good lighting. There's no sun to help them. Supplement any mediocre lighting there.
No. It's tough. The market's tough, overbuilt in Canada. So we have a presence there, and then we have an agent in Mexico. We're just waiting for that ball to drop with medical. It's going to be a while, red tape, but it's coming, and Mexico is going to be a huge market.
Now, you're not raising capital, right? Or are you?
No, we are not raising capital.
So why are you here?
So why am I here?
This is a capital raising conference mostly.
It is, and
What
this
are
is
you
my
for?
4th year at Benzinga. This is probably my 7th Benzinga.
Nice.
So
Thank you.
What we do here, not unlike maybe a few other ancillary manufacturers and service providers, is this is a great way. I have 10 scheduled meetings over the next 2 days, not including this. I had a chance meeting in the hall with that New Jersey grower. I had a chance meeting waiting in line with an old customer. So it's a great way to continue our network. It's a great way to build our network. And we actually, I was at an investor dinner last night. We actually are friends with the investor. On occasion, we bring to the investors maybe a rough gem that they haven't seen, that we've seen, that needs capital. So that's a tie. It's really being deeper in the industry. And where else can you go to see 1,500 people? So
That's awesome. So, if you're an operator, approach Fluence. If you're an investor, I'm sure you can share leads, you can share commentary, advice. Any concluding thoughts from you? Anything that you think we're, missing?
You guys do it right. MJ Biz is prom night, but this is a different prom night. I think
The gala.
So,
It's the Met Gala.
Great fun time here, like you can't get. You can make 100 phone calls, but you can't, meet people for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes. Have a meeting after this. It's just really fun to be in the industry, and we're growing like a rocket and having a blast doing it. So yeah.
Great things for Fluence in the near future. I happen to know about some very cool stuff that's coming up. So make sure to stay tuned to benzinga.com/cannabis to get those news. Where can people reach you? Like, of course, here, right? Where can they find you here, and how can they reach you if they're interested in working with you?
We really do well on our website, so you can go on the website, you can contact us. A lot of our ecosystem partners, growers, consultants know of us, and there are people that don't. We're the biggest brand in medium to large size commercial cannabis technology, or you can come, pull on my jacket and tell me when to talk. So, yep.
That is fantastic. Kurt, thank you so much. Kurt Davis, again, I want to get it right, Director of Business Development at Fluence. Thank you so much for joining us today.